So in honor of Mother's Day, I thought I would talk about the manliest thing I know of. No, not football, not baseball, not boxing. Instead, today I want to tell you about butterflies. You may wonder, what is it that pastors actually do during the week? What do you do on weekdays? Well, a few weeks ago, I went for a walk through the Grapevine Botanical Gardens on a weekday. And I went with Ray Morrell, who's one of our members. Not just a member of Abiding Grace, though, a master gardener. And Ray was leading a tour through the botanical gardens and teaching about the gardens. And one of the things he was telling us was about butterflies. And he told this story that I thought was just so powerful that I wanted to share it with you. Did you know that in the spring, butterflies fly north? Kind of like birds. They migrate north. And I said, Ray, how far can a butterfly fly in a day? And he said, well, I don't really know the answer to that, but I can tell you this. It takes 3 life cycles for butterflies to get north. Which means that when a butterfly starts flying north, they die on the trip. Their children die on the trip. Their grandchildren die on their trip. But their great-grand butterflies get to enjoy God's country, the north. You said they fly to Michigan, right? And I thought, wow, that's a powerful story. It's a powerful story about nature looking out for the next generation. And as we think about Mother's Day, I'm always afraid to preach a sermon just on mom, right? Because not everybody had a great mom. And not everybody has the ability to be a mother. But I think we can talk about honoring those who made us a priority, much like the butterflies who made it a priority to spend their entire life flying in one direction so that the next generation could have a better life. So today I think is a day to honor those who did everything they could to help us have a better life. It may, for you, be your mother. And if so, I hope that this helps you honor your mother as you think about it. It may be a father, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, somebody in your life. And I think there's 4 main things that these people do that really has an impact on our life. First is I think they sacrifice to give us an opportunity. When I think about my parents, I think about all the times when they sacrificed their time and their money for my sisters and I. My parents always coached anything we ever played. They coached baseball, they coached softball, they coached soccer, they coached dance, they coached basketball. They coached everything. My father, who had no experience in the scouting world at all when I was a Cub Scout, volunteered to be the den master, is that what it's called? He had no clue what he was doing, but he volunteered to do it anyway. But more than that, my parents, they sacrificed so that I could go to a private Lutheran high school. They sacrificed so that my sisters and I could go to college. They sacrificed so that we had opportunities. You know, if only sacrificing guaranteed that somebody would be successful, right? But we know that's not true. And the best that you can do for somebody is give them an opportunity. And I look back at all the people in my life who have sacrificed to give me an opportunity. And it's amazing when I think about all the different seminary scholarships from small churches in the middle of nowhere, people I will never meet, people who may have left money behind in a will 30 years ago that sacrificed so that I could have an opportunity for theological education. I think if we think about it, there are a lot of people in our lives who have sacrificed to give us opportunities, and we should honor them. And then there are people who are proud of us. People who are proud of us. And now, I want to divide this here for a second. Because when we win, when we achieve something great, there are a lot of people who are proud of us. But when we lose, when we fall short, there are only a few people who are still proud of us. For my parents, winning wasn't important. I want to sidebar here. We always liked to win, which I know as Lions fans you may not believe, but we always liked to win. As a matter of fact, when my mother would coach my sister's softball teams, she would start by saying the practice, "I know you all are here to have fun, but I want to let you know that winning is fun." But more importantly was our effort. My parents wanted us to try as many different things as possible and to give it our best. And if we did that and lost, they were still proud of us. For 2 years, I played soccer. I was terrible at soccer. The things that made me good at other sports, like basketball because I was tall, baseball because I was big, soccer, you just needed to be fast. And I've never been fast in my life. As a kid, I was wide and big. So they made me goalie. And I wasn't quick enough to get it. But they were still proud that I tried, and we all learned that, hey, Nick's not a soccer player, and that's okay. They were proud that I tried. I think it's important that we have people in our life who are proud of us, even when we fail, even when we come short, because they know that we tried. More importantly than that, though, I think people who taught us what forgiveness is. People who taught us what forgiveness is. It's important, we talked about this at our men's Bible study yesterday. It's important to tell a child when they're doing something wrong. It's important to stop them from a certain behavior. And as Taylor talked about, it's important sometimes to punish a child who won't listen, who continues to do the wrong thing, who continues to hurt others. They need to learn the difference between right and wrong. Children need to know that. But a child's first understanding of grace is when their parents teach them the difference between right and wrong in a moment where they're doing something wrong, and then tell them that they're forgiven. Just because you did something wrong doesn't mean I don't love you. Just doesn't mean I love you less. I love you just as much as I did before you did something wrong, but you need to learn it. My first experience or my first memory of doing something wrong was at a drugstore. I asked my mother if I could have some gum, and she said yes, and so I put it in my pocket and I walked out. And we got to the car, and I pulled it back out of my pocket, and she made me go inside and tell them that I accidentally stole this gum, and then we paid for it. And it was one of those moments where I knew she wasn't happy that I stole the gum, but I knew that she didn't love me any less. I knew that she didn't love me any less. It's one of those things. We need to teach the children the right difference between right and wrong. Tell them not to do it again, but always love them and show them what forgiveness is. And then finally, I think there are people in our lives who provide great comfort for us. And a couple weeks ago, after church, we got home, and Caroline was sleeping in her car seat. And I picked her up, and she was still sleeping, and we sat down on a chair, and she woke up for a second, and she had this look on her face like she wanted to cry. And she looked me in the eye, and she saw where she was, and she smiled and put her head back down and went to sleep for an hour. And it was one of those moments that just melted my heart. It was like she opened her eyes and saw where she was, and it was right where she wanted to be. I think parents are the first source of comfort for a child. It's where they learn comfort. But as we grow, life gets more difficult, and you need more than just a comfortable place. When life gets hard, we need to hear that everything's going to be okay. You need to hear that everything is going to be okay. And sometimes there's no one there to say it, so thank God for Bob Marley. Every little thing is going to be okay. But no matter how often we hear those words, no matter how often we hear that everything is going to be okay, we really don't believe it, do we? Because we've been through tough times, and we know that there are tough times ahead of us, even if everything between now and the day we died went perfect. We still have to die. We know that in the future, everything is not going to be all right. But the greatest gift that anyone can give us is love. Because when they love us, they reflect God's love for us. Their love opens our hearts to embrace God's love and to share God's love. And God's love changes everything. When God says everything is going to be okay, we know that everything is going to be okay in the end. That it might be a journey to get there. But once we do, everything is going to be okay. Pain and suffering are not going to be welcome where we're going. And even though we're going through difficult times, we know they're just temporary. So when God says everything is going to be okay, we know everything is going to be okay. We're going to know a life without pain, a life without suffering, because Jesus sacrificed himself for us. Sacrifice. He laid his life down for us. And in doing so, forgave all our sins and gave us an opportunity to have a meaningful relationship with God, who is proud to claim us as his own. Though we struggle with sin, shame, regret, grief, anger, and doubt, God looks at us and says, "Yep, that one's mine." Amen.